Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? So for this week's assignment, I'm gonna be speaking about, a mistake that I made in the past that turned into a valuable lesson learned. So, all right, so here goes. All right, so when I joined the Navy about 4 or 5 years ago, as a mass communication specialist, I really didn't know too much about the rate. Another word for the job, but it entails pretty much like everything having to do with public affairs, journalism, videography, digital, like digital graphic design, and then like printing products like paper pamphlets, brochures, etc. So when I first checked into my current command, I was a photojournalist. So that was pretty much just, finding stories around the ship, whether it be like individual sailors doing really cool things or prominent events that the ship is producing or going through that internal and external audiences should know about. So I was I was at the command for about like 2 years at this time, so I was still pretty junior. I was an E4, third class petty officer in the United States Navy, and I was, like I said, assigned to the photojournalism team. So my story was to cover pretty much the anchor being removed from the GW, short for USS George Washington. It's an aircraft carrier, number 73. So the boatswain's mates, which are also known as BMs for short, they're in charge of the whole anchor evolution, which is pretty much the two huge anchors that are on the front of every aircraft carrier. They need to be like removed whenever the ship enters like the shipyard period for a complete overhaul inside out. So so I was trying to get a hold of, the people that were responsible for this evolution. Couldn't get a hold of any of them. So I went to talk to, another group of sailors. So the key thing about this event is that, we actually receive awards as like, individual sailors and as at the command level for completing prominent events such as like removing the anchor chain, putting it back on properly, retention of sailors. So like, for example, you get to paint your anchors gold if, you've had 100% retention, meaning like, everybody's re-enlisting at your command. It's just pretty much like a good stamp of approval saying that, hey, we're making sure that sailors want to stay in the Navy at our command. So therefore, I went to go talk to the command career counselors to see if I could, help write my story with some really good interviews. I ran into a couple roadblocks. I sent them like various emails to like the lower level junior sailors in this department and their upper, the bosses, the upper chain of command. Nobody responded to me. I waited several days. I was getting emails and phone calls from my chain of command within my department as to the status of my story and the photos. So I was kind of like, like trying to just, let it blow over. Waited a couple days, still no answer. So I even got my chain of command involved to go talk to their bosses to be like, hey, can you just, do a quick phone interview, or if you don't feel comfortable doing a phone or in-person interview, you can just, email the answers back, and we can just write the story like that, just to make this whole process streamlined. So still got no answer. So I took it upon myself to just pretty much fabricate some quotes that, sounded really good and made my story like flow very well. But unfortunately, that department ended up reading that issue of the Washington Weekly Surveyor, which is just a paper that goes around the ship that we produce weekly. And the people that I quoted in the story that I never really got to interview because of all the roadblocks, they came back and notified my boss saying that, hey, you have a journalist on your team who pretty much just, lied and said that I said these things, even though they weren't negative things. So I got a stern talking to by all of my bosses, and almost got in some hot water. Luckily, I just had to write, I think it was like a 2 or 3 page essay on the ethics of journalism, and provide training on, proper interviewing techniques, as well as, provide guidance on what you should do if you come across a situation. But they did notify me that, like, had I not been, the type of person I am, this was like literally like one of my first mistakes there, and I'm a very good person. But they notified me, they said that, I was very lucky, and had it been anybody else, or had this been like a second time mistake, then definitely would have been going up to captain's mast, which pretty much you just put in front of the captain of your command, and they make a judgment as to what's going to happen with you, whether it's, normal punishment is 45 days of half pay. So they pretty much cut your pay in half and give you that for 45 days. And sometimes they'll put you on restriction for 45 days, which you're literally like a prisoner, essentially. You'll be stuck on the ship for 45 days, living in whatever barracks or berthing racks that are on the ship until that time has passed. So I definitely learned a lot from this, and I've never looked back, and I've been providing a great example to all the junior sailors ever since I've had my one mistake. So thank you.